So, just making sure that this is working everywhere again. So, yes, we've got YouTube. Are we live on Facebook? Yes, we're live on Facebook and Twitch. Well, Twitch is brand new for me, yes, so... We're live on Facebook and Twitch. Well, Twitch is brand new for me, so... Yep, it works. Right, hello and welcome to Small Screen Stories. Happy Friday, everyone. We have made it to Friday. It's almost the weekend, which is always great news. And this is the show where I go over all the news in the world of entertainment and pop culture. And there's a lot of news all the time. And I'm Edward Lauder. I'm the editor of Small Screen. And let's just get straight into it and straight into the biggest story of the evening, and that, well, of the day, of the week probably, and that's that Johnny Depp has quit his role of Grindelwald, in the Fantastic Beasts franchise. So I say quit. He revealed this on Instagram not very long ago, and he posted a picture of a statement. So if you read the statement, it kind of sounds to me and to probably everyone else that's read the statement that Warner Brothers really, really wanted him to leave after, and of course this is after his trial with the Sun, which has been going on now for a very, very long time, too long, and of course the judge ended up ruling in favor of the Sun, the newspaper. News group, newspapers, is that what it's called? News group, something, I can't remember. It's late over here in the UK, but yeah, so basically he said, I'll bring it up here. In light of recent events, I would like to make the following short statement. Firstly, I'd like to thank everybody who's gifted me with their support and loyalty. I have been humbled and moved by your many messages of love and concern, particularly over the last few days. Secondly, I wish to let you know that I have been asked to resign by Warner Brothers for my role as Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts, and I have respected and agreed to that request. Finally, I wish to say this. The surreal judgment of the court in the UK will not change my fight to tell the truth and confirm that I plan to appeal. My resolve remains strong, and I intend to prove that the allegations against me are false. My life and career will not be defined by this moment in time. Thank you for reading. Sincerely, Johnny Depp. Reading that and you just think, ugh. I mean, this is a really difficult story to talk about because it's... Okay, first off, the ruling, it seems to me as though he, especially Warner Brothers, is really siding with Amber Heard on this. And to be honest, there's only really one way they can go because the judge ruled in favor of the Sun, therefore... They get to keep that article up claiming that he's a wife beater. This was too hot. It was just too much for Warner Brothers. They couldn't. First off, there was a lot of people that were angry with the casting, even though he's perfect for the role. Like really, I will say I've read the Harry Potter books multiple times. I've watched the movies. He's the best thing in the Crimes of Grindelwald film. I mean, I do kind of understand. I honestly think I have my issues with those films. He's not one of them. I have the issue with the first film in the sense that they did that kind of bait and switch with Colin Farrell. I actually think Colin Farrell would have been a very good Grindelwald as well. And yes, Johnny Depp does bring that kind of weirdness to the role, but you know what? The franchise needed it. It really needed that. Is he guilty? I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I really don't know. Should he lose his job because of this ruling? There was probably really no... If you look at it from Warner Brothers' point of view, they couldn't really make a third film and have him be the star, which is what would have happened. Grindelwald is one of the key characters in this franchise. they couldn't carry on with him in this role, and he of course realizes that. So, what does that mean? What does that mean for Johnny Depp's career? What does that mean for Fantastic Beasts? What does that mean for the role of Grindelwald? What does this mean for Amber Heard? Well, it looks pretty much like Amber Heard's career is going to carry on as normal. She's going to be in Aquaman 2. She's doing reshoots for Zack Snyder's Justice League as Mira. So yeah, she seems to be fine. You know, the ruling was basically in her favor. Again, there are lots of other lawsuits going on with regards to this case. This one was just against the Sun in particular, and it was in the UK. I won't go over what the judge said because I did that in a previous video. You can find the article on small screen. But it was kind of, I have to say, it was a bit baffling. I'm going to be really honest. It was quite baffling. And I think a lot of people are a bit quite baffled by this whole thing. So what will happen moving forward? Well, they're going to recast. Maybe Colin Farrell will come back for the role. That'd be weird, but I don't think that's going to happen. But to be honest, after who can really step into Johnny Depp's shoes? It's not an easy thing to do. But it looks like there's a lot of that going on at the moment. We know that they're not recasting Jack Sparrow in the Pirates movies, but it looks like he's not going to be part of those, which is a shame because he is those movies. Without Johnny Depp, without his performance, those movies are literally just rubbish. I'm sorry, but they're rubbish without him. I am a bit bummed by this. I'm going to be honest, because I really do. As an actor, I think he's fantastic. I do think he does. He offers something that many other actors can't get close to. That it is a shtick to a certain degree. There is an element of him doing a lot of the same stuff in everything he's in. But if you look look at him in Edward Scissorhands. I just think look at him in Sleepy Hollow. Those are two films that I think he is genuinely brilliant in. I also think he's pretty damn good in the Willy Wonka film, in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film, even though I think he's doing kind of an impersonation of Michael Jackson in that movie. It is good, and it worked for that movie. He's not my Willy Wonka. That will always be Gene Wilder, but I thought he was good in that. He's a really good actor. There's no denying that. Is he a wife beater? I don't know. There are people that say they were as bad as one another, and in that case, it's like, sometimes there are people that bring out the worst in you, and I do believe, as far as Johnny Depp's concerned, that is certainly the case with Amber Heard. I don't want to go too much into what was said at the trial, but we heard a lot from people that were, from Penelope Cruz, from Javier Bardem, even Vanessa Paradis, who he was with before, claiming that he was the sweetest guy, never, was a great father, is a great father, and never laid a finger on him, was never violent towards her. So, and he was with her for far, far longer than he was with Amber Heard for. So what, sometimes there is that element of that two people come together and they're just completely wrong for each other, and they bring out the complete worst in one another. Anyway, I'll take that Instagram post down. I'm pretty upset. I am upset by it because I don't really think it's right. But again, I also understand why Warner Brothers asked him to leave, which is what it seems like that they did. They kind of put him into a corner, and they're like, we want you to resign. It's a resignation, but a forced resignation. Let's just leave it at that, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm down about it because, without him, I really don't think those Fantastic Beasts or anything. I'm sorry, but Eddie Redmayne cannot carry those movies. He's just not good enough. Yeah, he's an Oscar winner, but I won't go into what I think about him. But let's move on from all of that, and and actually start to talk about something which is also really upsetting, which is that Disney has delayed a bunch of movies. So Disney has delayed indefinitely Kenneth Branagh's Death on the Nile and Ryan Reynolds' Free Guy. Now, interestingly enough, Free Guy did this whole thing. they did this whole video about when were they actually going to release the movie because of this coronavirus pandemic. And of course, it is because of the coronavirus pandemic that these two films have been delayed. The only kind of tentpole movie, big blockbuster movie at the moment that's coming out supposedly this year is Wonder Woman. And it's looking like that film is definitely, I'm 100% certain that film is going to be pushed into 2021. But so two movies that Disney have decided to push indefinitely. I think I need a pop filter on this. But they're pushed indefinitely into, well, they didn't even mention when they were gonna be releasing these movies. There's no release date for them. They're just there and kind of in no man's land. So as far as Death on the Nile is concerned, that was going to come out on December 18th. Here in the UK, that was going to come out on December 18th. I'm not sure about the US. And Free Guy, when was Free Guy going to come out? Free Guy was going to come out in December as well, I think. Let me just get that up. Free Guy release date. So it was December 2020, but now that's moved. So it was supposed to come out on December 11th, 2020. There's no release date for it now. So it's again, it's just it's another instance where it's like, okay, I mean, I kind of understand, but I think as far as I'm aware, I believe that it's a reaction to the lockdowns here in the UK and France and Germany, especially in Europe, because they're still big markets they're huge markets for them. So that is something that I suppose that it's gonna be really difficult, I think, to actually come up with a release date for all these movies, because there are so many movies now that have been pushed into 2021. So when are they going to release them? A lot of these films, of course, there are all the movies that were originally slated for release in 2021. So, I mean, maybe the best thing to do is to push some of the 2021 movies into 2022, because there's a limited amount of space for these movies to come out. I mean, it's starting to become ridiculously overcrowded, because you've got all the films. I mean, the last film to come out was, big blockbuster film to come out was Tenet. And Tenet didn't do very well at the box office. It did well considering the fact that no one wants to go to the cinemas at the moment, but it didn't do well. That film was tracking, to begin with, people were looking at probably close to $1 billion for that movie. It's a Christopher Nolan film. It was going to be a big deal, but that film was supposed to be coming back. Was Warner Brothers one of their tentpole films of 2020. All of these studios have taken a huge loss. Cinemas have taken a huge loss. Are cinemas going to stay open? Are they going to be able to survive this? Probably not. I think a lot of independent cinemas are going to go under. I think a lot of cinema chains are in massive trouble. We see like Cineworld in the UK, in the US. I think it's Regal Pictures, I believe, Regal Cinemas. Over there, View, Odeon in the UK, in France, Gaumont. All these chains are in incredible difficulty now. So, it would have probably helped if movie studios had been like, okay, we'll take the hit and we'll release some movies in cinemas. But no, they didn't. They didn't release any of their, the only film they released was Tenet, and Tenet didn't do very well, so they said, well, we're not going to push anything else out. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that they've decided to push Free Guy, and Death on the Nile. It's not surprising. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this. Are you as upset about this as I am? I'm very down tonight. I'm sorry. It's the end of the week. I should be a bit more upbeat, but I'm not. I'm not feeling very upbeat about the way things are going in the movie industry. And these three stories are all quite down. And there's another one that's coming, which is also quite quite upsetting, and that's that Sean Connery didn't like being in Bond. So he didn't like being in the Bond franchise, and he compared the movies to comic strips. So that's like comic book movies. Well, not even comic book movies, like comic strips you get in a newspaper or something like that. I think he was in his head. He was thinking of like the Beano or something like that in the UK. And this came from Deadline. And Deadline actually had a really interesting, it was a fascinating interview actually with a journalist called Peter Bart, who interviewed Sir Sean Connery in the 1960s, in 1966 to be exact. And he described it as a fiercely intense interview. And this was right after Thunderball had been released. So actually, bear in mind, he'd only been, I think, in four Bond movies. I say only. That's a lot, really, that's a lot of movies to be in, like in one franchise. But yeah, so he was going on to film You Only Live Twice. Then he left Bond famously, and then George Lazenby came in and only did one movie. He did on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and then Sean Connery came back to do Diamonds Are Forever, and that was all the contract base. He really didn't want to do that film. He didn't want to be part of it. It's kind of well documented, all of this. But what's interesting about this interview that Bart had with Sean Connery is that this is in 1966. So as far as Bond movies are concerned, and his career as Bond, it was nearing the end, but it was still like he'd been in Doctor No, From Russia with Love. I'm blanking on the third one. You Only Live Twice. Yeah, and then Thunderball. I think that's it. Thunderball. I'm gonna have to look that up because I'm blanking on one of them. There's one film I forgot there. But so this is what he said in the interview. This is what Bart said in the interview. The Bond. This is what Sean Connery said in the interview. I'll bring it up for you here. The Bond pictures have become like comic strips, depending on bigger and better gimmicks. That's all that sustains them. And so that's what Connery said during the interview. Connery said, ordering drinks for both of us. More exasperating, he said, was that wherever he went, he found himself surrounded by Bond licensed products, attaché cases, toys, even underwear. There are even dolls with spikes that protrude from their shoes. That's a lot of rubbish. They then went on to talk about whether he could return for a fifth movie. And Sean Connery's face apparently was a look of resignation, which he didn't want to be in the movie. He didn't want to be in it. It's crazy. And then apparently Sean Connery said, the negotiations will be difficult. I'm fighting for time as well as for money. A Bond picture takes 6 months. I want time to fit in other things that mean more to me. Wow. Wow. It's... That's there are pretty big words from Sean Connery there. He clearly didn't want to be in any more Bond movies. He clearly didn't want to have anything to do with the Bond franchise, which, to be honest, if you look at it at the time, is completely understandable. Because after Thunderball was probably the moment where the Bond movies really went downhill. Especially the Sean Connery ones. Now, I know I get a lot of flack for saying this, but I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of the best Bond movies ever made. I do not think George Lazenby is one of the best Bonds. I think he's one of the worst. He's one of the worst Bonds, but in the best film. If that makes any sense to you, it does to me. I think the story is really quite fascinating. It's the one Bond film that I've ever watched. Well, apart from maybe the Daniel Craig movies, where it's the one Bond movie that I've watched where I thought actually Bond is a genuine human being. All the other ones, I think he's a bit of a robot. I love Bond. That's coming from a fan. But I do think Doctor No is fantastic. I think From Russia with Love probably is my second favorite Bond movie ever made. But then, kind of after that, they did get gimmicky. They did get ridiculous. Like if you watch Thunderball, Sean Connery is not putting on any accent but his own. It's just his Scottish accent, and it's. I'm sorry to any Scottish people watching, by the way, for that. But he literally is just doing a Scottish accent in it. And he just gave up by the end. He gave up. And then, of course, after he came back for Diamonds Are Forever, which is terrible. Diamonds Are Forever is a really bad Bond movie. It's also quite homophobic. If you rewatch it, you'll be surprised. Then again, I think all the Bond movies are pretty homophobic to a certain degree. But if you watch that, and then basically what happened was he did that movie, but then he really wanted to do a Bond his way, and that is Never Say Never Again. And there are problems with Never Say Never Again, a lot of them, but it's actually worth a watch. I would say go and watch it if you're interested in seeing what Sean Connery really thought the character should be. Then go and watch Never Say Never Again. It's much more military than the Bond movies. He really does kind of look at that side of things, which is an interesting side to Bond that you don't really see in the movies at all. And it was something that I think Sean Connery was much more fascinated in. But what do you think about about Sean Connery's comments about being in the Bond franchise? Let me know in the comments below. Right, moving on to this is a story that I've been kind of I've been thinking a lot about how will Marvel release these R-rated MCU movies. Now that they've got the rights to Deadpool, I mean, they're doing a Blade movie, which should be R-rated. They've got Logan in Wolverine. Are they going to do standalone Wolverine movies? These films, really, if you want... I know people go on about R-rated and it shouldn't matter, but it actually does, because a rating allows you to go a bit further than... if you have an R rating, which is over here in the UK, I believe that's a 15, but in America, I mean, I'm not actually sure what the age restriction is in America, but probably 18, but over here it's definitely a 15. So if you do a 15 movie in the UK, which is R rated in the United States, you can do so much more. You don't have to worry about the language. You don't have to worry about how much blood is shown. Because you're not constricted by these things. So it does mean that you can really push a movie further than it would go if it was, say, in the UK, I think it's PG-13 in the UK, maybe 12A, I think it is in the UK. I think it's PG-13 in the US. So you can go far, you can do so much more with an R-rated movie. I really do not think you can do a Deadpool PG-13 12A. I just don't think it would work, because we've already had 2 Deadpool movies that are R-rated with a lot of blood, a lot of guts, a lot of gore, a lot of swearing, a lot of Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds. I don't think he could be like that in a 12A movie. So how are they going to get around this? Because traditionally, Marvel just does not make R-rated movies. They haven't done one yet in the MCU. Disney doesn't make R-rated movies. They used to make more kind of adult films with Touchstone Pictures. They were like, that was like their kind of the banner that they released. They're more kind of, they're darker films under. They're more, let's say, R-rated movies. But that doesn't exist anymore. So, and also it wouldn't really make sense to kind of revitalize the Touchstone Pictures banner just for the R-rated Deadpool and Blade and Logan movies. So what can they do? Well, it's been staring us in the face this whole time. They've still actually got 20th Century Fox, but it's just been rebranded as 20th Century Studios. So this comes basically, this whole idea that I was talking about comes from a scoop from Geekosity, Mikey Sutton. Shout out to Mikey Sutton. And according to him, Marvel and Disney are already thinking that's what they're going to do. They're going to release the R-rated movies under the 20th Century Studio banner, And then it's basically going to be like the 20th Century Fox never left, that they never merged with Disney, basically, because they're just going to carry on with this. And what they might end up doing is having crossover movies. Say Deadpool might, as it seems as though it's been leaked, show up in Doctor Strange 2. They're going to have to tone him down, but he can still be in that. And that will work. You'll get a toned down version of Deadpool in the MCU, and then you'll get Deadpool as he should be in these 20th Century Studio movies. Then you'll also get a Blade movie under the 20th Century Studio banner, which is R-rated. It just makes more sense. It makes more sense because it also stops. It means that you don't have to change the tone of the MCU. All you have to do is make sure that these R-rated characters are kind of on their best behavior in the MCU, which could work if you think about it. If you think about seeing Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, being in the MCU, he would be so meta, it'd be funny. He'd be going on about, I have to be on my best behavior, the mouse is watching. Or, something like that. There could be a lot of jokes like that, and they would work, and they'd work in a PG-13 setting. So it would still work. It would be a watered-down version of the character, but I think people would be fine with that. And I think it could work if they really, if they work with their writers, they work with the actors to really get it right for those particular kind of crossover movies where these characters are coming, like basically a future Avengers movie that you see Deadpool coming in. And you don't have to have the gratuitous violence in those movies that you probably would do in the Deadpool standalone films. So I think this is how they're going to go ahead with it. According to Geekosity, that's how it's going to happen. And I think it's the best and most logical explanation. There was a lot of talk about people that I was just like, this is absolutely nonsense. That Marvel was going to work with Sony Pictures on the R-rated movies, and I was like, that's never going to happen. Because why would they do that? Why would they split the earnings with Sony Pictures? They can just do it under 20th Century Studios. It's a ridiculously dumb idea, and any outlet that is writing that is just lying, and you shouldn't read them because there's no logic behind it. It's really stupid to say that because it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any business sense. Marvel would never do that. Disney would never allow that. But what they will allow is the fact that they still have 20th Century Studios. It still exists. It hasn't. People seem to be thinking as though, it's gone. We're never gonna. The thing about the merger that's upsetting is the fact that they're no longer two separate entities. That because face it, 20th Century Fox, there are lots of films that they made that are just absolutely fantastic. Think of the films they made in the comic book movie genre. They made Logan. They made the Deadpool films. They made the Kingsman movies. They made Kick-Ass, I believe. I'm pretty sure they made Kick-Ass. Maybe they didn't make Kick-Ass, but they definitely made the Kingsman movies. And they just seem to 20th Century Fox seem to just not really. They're not as constrained. They weren't as constrained as Disney are or is. Disney really, really just is very much family first, which is fine. That's the way they are. But they also, I would call them quite vanilla. They don't push the boat out really. They don't think outside the box. I've enjoyed the Star Wars movies. I've enjoyed the Marvel movies. I love them. I'm going to say I love them. But imagine if 20th Century Fox had done something with those properties, which, to be honest, 20th Century Fox originally they distributed the original Star Wars films, which are far better than the new ones. They are. I think they also probably did. Maybe they didn't do. No, I don't think they did the prequels. Tell me in the comments whether they did. I can't remember. But what I'm getting to is 20th Century Studios still exists. They're going to release their R-rated movies under that banner, and they're going to be fine. It's just going to be like, honestly, it's going to be like nothing's ever happened, nothing's ever changed. Right, moving on to another scoop from Geekosity is that according to them, Wesley Snipes is in discussions to play the villain in the MCU's Blade movie. according to them, he's either going to be playing Dracula, or I'm blanking on his name now, Blade's kind of mentor. Why? I'm blanking on so many names tonight. What is his name? Let me get the article up. Apologies for this. I want to get his name right. What is his name? Abraham Whistler. So that's his name. And I think he'd be good for either. Honestly, I think he'd be good for either role. I think I would like him. I would actually really like to see him play a villain in this franchise. Of course, he was the guy that played Blade originally, and he's fantastic as Blade. He was brilliant. We watched Blade 1 and Blade 2. They're brilliant. Blade 2 is so good. Guillermo del Toro's movie is just fantastic. But he's someone that, if you've watched Dolomite Is My Name, then you'll realize he's really, really looking at other roles, trying to expand his repertoire, show his range. He's actually got a lot of range as an actor that he doesn't get enough credit for. So I would like to see him play a villain. I'd rather see him play a kind of Dracula-like character. I don't think him as Dracula would quite work because I think, well, to be honest, if he is going to be in this movie and they start off with Dracula, you're kind of getting your biggest villain, Blade villain, out in the very first movie, and I don't think that's the best idea to do if they want this to continue. If they want people to be really invested in these films, I think they might have to find another villain, not Dracula. But that's just my personal opinion on that. But what do you guys think about this? Would you like to see Wesley Snipes in the Blade reboot? Of course, Blade is being played by Mahershala Ali, and that's fantastic casting. I cannot wait to see that. I cannot wait to see him play Blade. I'm really excited. Blade is probably my most anticipated Marvel movie because I love the character. I love the comic books. In the comic books, he's English. You can't have everything. I thought John Boyega would have made a very good Blade, but you know what? Mahershala Ali, I'll take that any day. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Right. Other Marvel news is that apparently Marvel has already renewed Loki for a season 2 on Disney+. So this is kind of confusing because basically there's a lot of news coming out about Loki, and it's still not sure whether they're filming it at the moment or not, or whether they've taken a break. They are supposedly filming it in Atlanta, but I haven't heard anything about what's going on the set, apart from the fact that, what is the name? The fact that Richard E. Grant is rumored to be playing an older version of Loki, and Sophia DiMartino has been spotted on set, and it seems like she'll be a female version of the character. So apparently there'll be multiple people playing Loki, which makes sense. He's a shapeshifter. He can be anybody. He's also apparently going to be bisexual in it, which is canon as far as the comic books are concerned, and as far as Norse mythology is concerned. So you cannot get annoyed about that one. But no, apparently they've already greenlit season 2. This comes from Production Weekly, and Production Weekly is, they just put down which shows are being worked on, and in Production Weekly they said Loki season 2. So it seems as though it's going ahead. It's been greenlit. I did get that from MovieWeb, and Production Weekly is something that I'm pretty familiar with. So yeah, it looks like that's happening. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm pretty excited to see this. Apparently, to begin with, they were saying it was going to be a 6-episode season, actually a mini-series. But then Clark Gregg actually let slip that they're going to do 10 or 12 episodes. Who knows what's happening with this? Who knows what's going on with this show? But they are reportedly making a season 2. And I really, really want to see it. I really want to see this season 2. I'm really excited for the Loki show. I think it's going to be great. But what do you think? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Right, moving on. Moving on to what is, I think, my favorite. I went from this. The start of the show was quite down. The end of the show is going to be upbeat. And Boba Fett. There is apparently going to be a live action miniseries. Yes, and apparently it's coming to Disney+. Apparently they're filming it next week. This is insane. Like, this is something that this comes from Deadline. Deadline said they heard a rumor that it's happening, and that it's going to start filming next week, and it's going to star Temuria Morrison. I think that's Temuria Morrison. I'm bad with pronouncing names, I'm sorry, but I believe that's how you say it. Apparently he's going to be starring in it. Apparently they're going to be filming it next week. Apparently it's happening, and I could not be more happy. I loved seeing him in the first episode of The Mandalorian. He pops up at the end of the first episode. Spoilers. Sorry, but he pops up at the end of the first. If you haven't seen the first episode of The Mandalorian season 2, what are you doing? You got to watch it. But he's in it. Sorry, he's in it at the end. Pretty sure he's playing Boba Fett. He's on Tatooine. He's looking at the guy that has his old armor. He's playing Boba Fett. He looks really cool. He looks like all kind of scarred, probably from the Sarlacc pit. But yeah, it looks like we're going to get a mini series, which I think this is what style they should do. This is what Lucasfilm should do more of. Just do smaller things, kind of not think, oh, we need to do like a massive show. But this is what it seems as though this is what they're doing. They're doing it with the Kenobi series now. Apparently, they're doing it with Boba Fett, and it's been basically seemingly rushed into production. They want to get this filmed before The Mandalorian season 3, which Jon Favreau wants to get filming at the end of this year. So they don't have very long. I'm pretty sure that The Mandalorian season 3 is going to be pushed into 2021. Talking of The Mandalorian season 3, Sophie Thatcher's been cast in a role, undisclosed role. She's fantastic. If you've watched Prospect on Netflix, then you'll know how good she is. Of course, she's in that movie with Pedro Pascal, so there's that link there. I'm really excited to see her, actually. She's really, really good. And I'm excited to see this Boba Fett miniseries. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is this something you're excited for? Yeah, let me know. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little review. I'm going to review The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 2, Chapter 10, The Passenger. And this episode was released today. And it is brilliant. I loved it. I loved it so much. It's one of those. It's just this show is as far as I'm concerned, this show is getting better and better and better and better. There's so much good in The Mandalorian. Now, when I was first watching it, I wasn't so sure about it. The first season, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed the last 2 episodes quite a lot. But it's just gone from strength to strength. Strength to strength. I will say that I did think episode 1 was better, mainly because I preferred this. I thought the story was better. There was more going on. This episode was quite, in comparison to last week's episode, this episode was actually quite smaller in scale. The whole thing is that the Mandalorian is still trying to find other Mandalorians so he can get help to get the child, Baby Yoda, back to the Jedi, which is a kind of weird way to do it. But he's on a quest, and this is how quests work. And so he's doing that, and in order to he's lost his lead basically, because he's now in on Tatooine, and that's where he thought he would find a Mandalorian. It wasn't Mandalorian, it was called Vanth. And this episode, basically, he has to take on a passenger who says she's a frog lady, and she says that she knows where a Mandalorian is, but she needs safe passage to a planet that I'm blanking on the name right now, so that she can have her husband, who's on the planet, what's the word? Not impregnate, but yeah, she's got eggs, and and I'm blanking on the word. Sorry, it's late here. It is quite late, but basically, in order to do this, he can't go into hyperspace, so he has to do it slow, which is actually very dangerous. And I love that. I love that concept. I really love that concept. It reminded me a bit of Firefly. It reminded me of kind of Western space shows that I love. Firefly. And then the episode basically he ends up on an ice planet because he gets chased by the actually resistance fighters. And he ends up in a cave, and in that cave is where I thought it went very, very alien. There are eggs, there are spiders, there's Baby Yoda eating stuff. It's both kind of freaky and funny, and I really, really loved it. In my review, I said it was like it's basically like Alien for kids, and I think it really is. I think it's I think this show is going to very, very interesting, very good places. I'm really excited to see what comes next. And I think everyone should watch it. I think it's one of the best shows on, especially Disney Plus at the moment. It's probably one of the only shows, but on streaming platforms at the moment. I would say Truth Seekers is also really good, but that's all been dumped at once. This is weekly, and I actually love the fact that this is weekly. I love the fact that these episodes are longer than last season's. This was 42 minutes long, which I think is a good time, a good length for these things. I liked the 52 minutes of the previous episode, but 42 is fine. I'll take that. And I think I gave it an 8 on the site. I thought it was really, really good. But not as good as the previous episode, but a very solid second episode. I'm very excited to see episode 3, which is coming out next week. Let me know if you've seen it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And with that, I'll say thank you very much for watching. Thank you for those of you who've been commenting. Thank you for everyone that's been watching this. I've been doing these now for the last, I think, 3 weeks. It's been really good fun. It's been a lot of work, but I really do love it. If you don't like watching live streams, if you'd rather listen to this in podcast form, I do put them out on as a podcast. You can find that at Small Screen Stories. If you do like the podcast, please give it a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That'd be wonderful. If you like what I'm doing here, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're on Facebook, please like the page. Like it, that'd be brilliant. If you're on Twitch, well, I don't really know what you guys do on Twitch. I'm very new to Twitch, but maybe there are people watching. I don't know. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. You can find Small Screen everywhere on social media. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all at Small Screen GB. I'm at Small Screen on Twitch. You can also follow me, EJ Lauder, on Twitter. And